A researcher opens a cave drawing, 10,000 years old, and stops cold. It's not a bison, it's not a hunter. It's a mushroom drawn dead center, like a god. What you're about to hear is not a conspiracy theory. It's not stoner folklore. It's a scientific hypothesis proposed by a credentialed researcher, cited in academic papers, and still actively debated by evolutionary biologists today. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some scientists believe that a fungus, something you can buy at a grocery store, may have played a direct role in shaping the human brain. And whether they're right or wrong, the evidence they point to is genuinely unsettling. In 1992, an ethnobotanist named Terence McKenna proposed something that got him laughed out of academic circles almost immediately. He called it the Stoned Ape Theory. His argument was simple and explosive. As early humans moved across the African savanna following large animals, they encountered cattle dung, and in that dung, psilocybin mushrooms, lots of them. McKenna suggested that early humans didn't just stumble past those mushrooms, they ate them repeatedly over thousands of years. And that those experiences, the visual enhancement, the pattern recognition, the flood of new neural connections, may have accelerated something in the human brain that we still don't fully understand. Here's what that means for you. The altered states of consciousness you might associate with modern culture. They may be older than language itself, but McKenna was just the beginning. Because the question scientists have been quietly asking ever since is this: what if the mushrooms didn't just change how early humans thought? What if they changed the actual structure of the brain? Here's something your textbooks probably glossed over. The human brain tripled in size in an evolutionary blink of an eye. We're talking roughly 2 million years ago to 200,000 years ago. A period that is, by geological and evolutionary standards, shockingly fast. Evolutionary biologists have been debating the cause for decades. Diet changes, social complexity, tool use, fire. All of those played a role, but none of them fully explain the speed. Paul Stamets, one of the most respected mycologists alive today, has publicly argued that psilocybin mushrooms may be the missing variable, that their neurogenic properties, meaning their ability to stimulate the growth of new neural connections, could have provided the kind of cognitive leap that normal evolutionary pressure simply can't account for. This isn't fringe speculation from someone in a basement. Stamets has spoken at medical conferences. His research is used by Johns Hopkins. DARPA has funded projects he's connected to. What this means for you is that the debate isn't between scientists and outsiders. It's happening inside the scientific establishment, quietly, carefully, and with stakes that go far beyond mushrooms. And here's where the cave drawing comes back into the picture. That mushroom carved into the cave wall isn't a one-off. Researchers have cataloged dozens of prehistoric images across multiple continents, in Algeria, in Spain, in the Americas, where mushrooms appear in spiritual or ceremonial context. Drawn with care, drawn with reverence. The famous Tessilian Eger cave paintings in Algeria, dated to somewhere between 7,000 and 9,000 years old, include figures that appear to be holding mushrooms. Some scholars interpret the imagery as depicting transformation, a human body dissolving into, or emerging from, a fungal form. Now you can debate the interpretation, but here's what you can't debate. Early humans considered mushrooms significant enough to carve into stone. Not food, not decoration, something closer to the sacred. The question is why, and the answer, or at least one deeply uncomfortable answer, is that those early humans may have known something experientially that we're only now beginning to prove in laboratories. Let's get specific, because this is where it gets real. Modern studies, many of them from Johns Hopkins, NYU, and Imperial College London, have confirmed that psilocybin, the active compound in psychedelic mushrooms, does something measurable to the human brain. It dramatically increases what neuroscientists call neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections, break old patterns, and reorganize itself. A 2021 study found that a single dose of psilocybin caused structural changes in the neurons of mice that persisted for weeks. Longer dendrites, more synaptic connections, a brain that was, in a measurable way, more connected after the experience than before. If you scale that effect across thousands of years of repeated exposure in early human populations, across generations, what does that compound into? Nobody has proven it leads to evolutionary change. That's the honest answer. But nobody has proven it doesn't. And some researchers are starting to ask whether the question has ever been taken seriously enough to actually study. The answer, uncomfortably, is no. Because here's the thing, the theory has been suppressed. Not by shadowy forces, but by something far more ordinary. Embarrassment. The association with counterculture made serious scientists want nothing to do with it for decades. That silence may have cost us something. Here's a fact that still stops most people cold when they hear it for the first time. You are never more than a few feet from a fungal network. Right now, wherever you're sitting, there is mycelium beneath you, around you, threading through the soil in a web so vast and so complex that scientists have started calling it the Wood Wide Web. This network connects trees. It transfers nutrients between plants. It sends chemical signals across distances we're only beginning to map. Suzanne Simard, the forest ecologist whose research became the basis for the science in the book The Hidden Life of Trees, spent decades proving that forests communicate and that fungi are the communication infrastructure. What does this have to do with human evolution? Everything. Because the same organism that built that network, the same biological system capable of connecting, transmitting, transforming, may have reached into the developing human mind and done something similar. Not metaphorically, chemically. And if fungi can restructure a forest ecosystem over centuries, the idea that they influenced a brain over millennia isn't a leap. It's almost logical. Here is the part nobody talks about. And this is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Not because it's frightening, but because of what it implies. Psilocybin mushrooms don't just affect you neurologically. They affect you genetically. A 2023 study out of the University of California found early evidence that psychedelic compounds may interact with gene expression, specifically genes related to neurological development and brain growth. Let that land. This means the effect of psilocybin isn't only what happens in your brain during the experience. There's a possibility, still being studied, still contested, that it affects how your brain builds itself. If that's true for a modern human in a clinical setting, what happened to an early human who consumed these compounds regularly, from childhood, across an entire lifetime, and then passed their genes to children who did the same? We don't know. Science doesn't know. But the question is now on the table in a way it wasn't 5 years ago. And here's the part that should stay with you. Humanity has been systematically consuming psychoactive fungi for at least 10,000 years. That's what the cave art suggests at a minimum. We may have been doing it far longer. We didn't stumble into consciousness alone. We may have had help from something that lives underground, something that has been here longer than we have, and will almost certainly be here long after we're gone. Now, here's what the skeptics say. And they're not wrong to say it. The Stoned Ape Theory has a core problem. It's almost impossible to test. You can't run a controlled experiment on prehistoric humans. You can't measure the neurological state of someone who lived 100,000 years ago. And correlation, mushrooms existed. Humans got smarter, is not causation. Critics also point out that every other primate had access to the same ecosystem. Chimps, gorillas, baboons, they all lived in environments where psychoactive fungi existed. None of them wrote cave paintings. That's a fair objection. But supporters of the theory have a response. None of those animals followed large grazing herds across open grasslands the way early Homo sapiens did. The exposure wasn't equal. The context wasn't the same. The debate is genuinely unresolved, and that's exactly why it's worth your attention. Because the questions it raises about consciousness, about what makes us human, about the relationship between our minds and the natural world, are questions that matter regardless of who wins the argument. You don't have to believe the Stoned Ape Theory to take something real from it. What this research has done, regardless of the evolutionary debate, is force neuroscience to take fungi seriously. Psilocybin therapy is now being used in FDA-approved trials to treat PTSD, depression, and end-of-life anxiety. The results are among the most significant in psychiatric medicine in 50 years. Lion's mane mushroom, a species with zero psychoactive properties, has documented effects on nerve growth factor, meaning it may literally help your brain repair and rebuild itself. Fungi are in your food, in your medicine, potentially in your evolutionary history. The organism that may have helped build your brain 100,000 years ago is now being studied as a way to help heal it today. That's not a conspiracy. That's a full circle. If this made you think differently about something you thought you already understood, that's exactly what this channel is here for. There's a lot more where this came from. The video coming up next goes even deeper into the fungi that researchers believe could reshape medicine as we know it. And it starts with something discovered entirely by accident. If you want to be here when that drops, subscribing takes 2 seconds. The most important things that ever happened to you may have started underground.